Okay, long division. Most of this will be review, and then we'll add a little bit of new learning. So if we had something like 24 divided by 6, and we know that equals 7, or 24 divided by 4, and we know that equals 6. Our vocabulary is the dividend, what we're dividing by is the divisor, and our answer is a quotient. Just like we've had product for multiplying, and we've had sum for adding, and difference for subtracting. Okay. So if we have, let's start with, and I'm going to try and use the grids to keep our columns lined up properly. So if we have 4 divided by 521, and that would look on paper as 521 divided by 4. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay. So 4 goes into 5 once. So we did division first. 4 times 1 is 4. So then we multiply. Now we need to subtract. 5 subtract 4 is 1. So we've subtracted. And then bring down. We're going to bring down the 2. And then, so bring down, oops. And then we start all back over again. So those 4 steps are what you need to remember. So we're going to go 4 into 12. It happens 3 times. Then we're going to do 4 times 3. That is 12. So we've done multiply. And if you need to put a dot or a check mark underneath your 4 steps each time so you don't lose track, that's fine. Now we're on subtraction. 12 subtracts 12 is 0. Now we need to bring down. We're going to bring this 1 down. Well, now we have 4 goes into 1, which can't happen. So anytime in your head you're thinking something can't happen, usually means you're going to have to put a 0. So in this case, it can't happen. So we're going to put a 0. 4 can't go into 1. So we're going to put the 0 there. That also means our number is going to have decimals because we're going to have a leftover piece. So from there, we're going to also put a placeholder here. And remember, there's always a decimal at the end of every number. So now we have 4 goes into 10. Oops. 4 goes into 10 twice. So recap on that. We had brought down the 1. 4 cannot go into 1. So we put a 0 up in the ones column in our answer. We're going to add the decimal, and we're going to bring down another 0. It's also important to note that if the decimal is here in our question, it's also going to be here in our answer. Everything has to stay in line. So we were at we brought down the extra 0 that we just placed it there. We could write as many zeros as we want. It doesn't change the value of our number. So 4 goes into 10 twice. So that's to divide. Multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract. 10 subtract 8 is 2. Bring down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 0. So that means there are no more further decimals. This part here is where you're used to. You would have left it at a remainder 2. Okay, let's try another one together. Okay, so 321 divided by 6, you're going to want to set this up in your notebooks. 6 divided by 321. And if on your line paper you wanted to draw little dotted lines that help you keep your columns organized, you're more than welcome to do that. It's harder on the screen for me to write them like that. And again, remember, where is a decimal? in any whole number, where do we put a decimal? So whether we need it or not, I don't know, but there's always a decimal at the end of every number. Our 4 steps are divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So 6 goes into 3. Well, it can't. So you can put a placeholder in the front, or we can just move on and we can go 6 into 32. Why is my pen not working? 6 into 32. Well, 6 times 5 is 30. So it's going to be 30. 5, so there's our divide. Multiply 6 times 5. And now I'm going to subtract. 32 subtract 30 is 2. Bring down the 1. So now I'm starting back over again, and I'm dividing. 6 into 21 goes, well, 6 times 4 is 24, so that's too big. 6 times 3 is 18. 21 subtract 18, that's 3. And again, this is where you would have left it, and you would have written 53, remainder 3. And what that remainder means is that means there's 3 pieces left out of the 6 groups, or the divisor of 6. So now we're not going to leave it at remainder 3. We want to find out what the exact decimal is. So this is where 6 goes into 3. Well, it can't. So as soon as I say it can't, and we've already taken care of the ones column, I'm going to put that decimal, put my 0 placeholder in the tenths column, and I'm going to bring it down. So now I have 6 into 30. Well, I know 6 goes into 30 exactly 5 times. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 subtract 30 is 0, so now I know I'm done. So 321 divided by 6 is 53.5. What if you have a decimal in your question, in your quotient, or sorry, in your dividend? So let's look at, I need a different color here. Let's look at 600. 6.2 divided by 3. So again, I'm going to set that up. My divisor divided by my dividend. 6 goes into 3 exactly twice. 6 times 3 is 6. I'm going to subtract. 6 subtract 6 is 0. I'm going to bring down the 2. Now it doesn't matter if you write the decimal underneath here, but your decimal definitely has to line up in the quotient. In the answer and in your dividend, those decimals have to be one above each other. Well, 3 into 2 can't happen, so I'm going to put a 0 because it can't happen. It goes 0 times. And now I also want to bring down an extra 0. 3 into 20 happens 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 20 subtract 18 is 2. I'm going to bring another thing down, and that's going to be the same. And I notice that something's happening here. I could continue going and doing this forever, and this is what we're going to call a repeating decimal. So you can end at any, once you realize it's a repeating decimal, if you put this single bar over top of this, that's going to represent that 6 will repeat on forever. Okay.